Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nervous Nellies. This is Jared. I'm here with my co-host, as always, Gabriel.
Yes, hi, welcome back. We missed you.
Welcome. As always, we're not medical professionals. We're not therapists. This is just a conversation between friends.
Yes, and if you do need a licensed medical professional to help treat and diagnose any issues that you may be having, you can find a link in our show notes where you can hopefully locate somebody
Close to you. Yeah.
Or that you find useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not close. It's online now.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
There's so much. Have you done anything online with therapy?
Sort of.
It's a big thing right now.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely talked to people online. Anyway, sorry. Hi. All right, let's get on with this.
Okay.
You get peace and contentment and joy. The powers come from the gods.
Jared,
Gabriel.
let's check in.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Oh, me first?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Let's see. I am good. I haven't had any temper tantrums lately, or full body meltdowns. So I'm feeling good, optimally medicated.
Full body meltdown sounds good though. It sounds like
It sounds like a massage.
Oh, see, I was thinking it sounds like an ice cream specialty.
We could open a massage ice cream parlor. Parlor, and call it Full Body Meltdown.
Yep.
Don't take that idea. It's copywritten.
Don't steal from us.
Yeah.
Well,
How are
that's
you?
good. That's good. How am I? Well, I broke 2 of my rules this week.
How many rules do you have?
I have plenty. I have way too many.
Mhm.
That's what makes me so fun. I went to a comic convention, even though I said I would never, and I watched Stranger Things, which I also said I would never.
Why'd you say you'd never go to the comic convention?
The company that was holding the convention just treats local comic shops like trash, and I don't know how they treat the talent that exhibits there, but so hopefully it's well. But they have a tendency to just kind of ignore common sense safety practices, and they will just shove as many people into the building as possible, and it becomes such a death trap. It's such a fire hazard. I don't have any fun whenever I go because all I can think about is where are the exits, what's going to happen if these people freak out, and I'm for sure going to get trampled to death. Plus, it doesn't seem to be very good for the disabled.
Oh, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah. So I said I would never go, but there was an artist that I was just dying to meet, and
Were they there?
no, that's the funny part, is at the last minute they had to cancel because of coronavirus, which, by the way, nobody was wearing a mask.
Oh, that sounds about right.
Yeah, which is a total bummer. And then Stranger Things, I have such a poor relationship with the feelings of nostalgia. I don't like to engage with that feeling because I feel like it's very dangerous.
For you.
For a lot of people.
For a lot of people, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it stifles creativity. It halts evolution in art specifically. I'm not a fan, but so many people were talking about Stranger Things, and yeah, I admit I did not feel like one of the cool kids because I didn't know what anyone was talking about. But also I was curious why Kate Bush was trending again. And so I caved and I watched Stranger Things season 4. And what's worse is I had to go back and watch Stranger Things season 2 and 3 first.
Did you see 1?
I saw 1 when it came out.
I think I've seen most of 1. That's all I've seen. And
that's enough.
Yeah, I mean, I love Winona Ryder. I grew up with her.
Sure. She's great. She's great in everything she does, except for that mugshot.
She's
hey-o. Hey. Sorry, Winona Ryder. I had to. I didn't have to. I'm just being petty. But the show is basically just one long toy commercial.
I know
Yeah.
I saw a light bright in Walmart the other day with the Stranger Things logo on it.
I fucking picked up a goddamn Domino's pizza that had Stranger Things logo on it because they're going back to they're doing like a promo thing where they're using the old school style boxes.
Okay, was it from Domino's or was it frozen?
It was Domino's.
Oh my God. It just, when you said that, I remembered Caesar, my husband, got a frozen pizza and it was the Stranger Things logo on it. And it was actually really good. I don't know what brand it was, but they made it look old school, like white and red. And
Yeah.
it said Stranger Things. It was good.
I mean, branding, that's fine.
Yeah.
Right. But like, in one scene, they had a 5-minute discussion about old Coke versus new Coke. And in another scene, there's just a Rubik's Cube placed in the foreground for no reason. We fucking get it. It's the 80s.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, move on. Get on with the goddamn story. And the story itself is not even that original. No.
I don't remember. Like I said, because they have like years in between the seasons, right? So I've only seen maybe like 6 episodes of the first season.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it.
The first season was entertaining, but then
And it was
just,
different.
Yeah. Well, at the time, right? I don't even know when it came out, but yeah, it was fine. I don't like trying to recreate the past, right? It's one thing to visit it, learn from it,
Yeah.
and then use those aspects to make something new, right? Like a nice homage, perhaps. But to just blatantly, rip off the past and try to pass off as new. It's just it gets under my skin as a creative person. I want something original. Anyway, so that's what I did. Not to start off the podcast with so much negativity.
It's not negative.
Whatever. We're the nervous Nellies, not the negative Nancys.
Oh my God! But that was one of Gabriel's idea for the name of the podcast.
It was. But then I was like, who wants to listen to us bitch and moan for 45 minutes? No one. I don't even want to do that.
I would listen to it.
Do
But
you?
Yeah. I mean, I listen to us talk in real life.
Yeah,
so.
but 45 minutes about your issues with teenagers or like the trouble with white people, like that's a long time to listen to
That is
somebody
a long time.
complain about something.
Yeah.
And nothing ages you like airing, what your
Oh my
grievances,
God! I know
right?
stuff gets on my nerves that never used to get on my nerves.
I know, but really, honestly, when you start to, talking shit about stuff, all I can see is just a old man shaking his cane at the sky.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Anyway.
have a shotgun on my porch in about 20 years. Oh. So what is the topic for this week, Gabriel?
Well, this week, everybody, we're gonna get a little personal. I was thinking about if we need to issue a slight trigger warning before, because we're going to be talking about my OCD. And I hesitate to talk about it only because the last thing I want to do is influence anybody into thinking that they have something wrong with them, or, unknowingly guiding someone into believing that they have OCD. I have been diagnosed professionally 3 times. 3 different therapists have given me this diagnosis. So, but also I'm going to be probably talking about some things that some people might find, they might be sensitive to it, or they might find objectionable. So, I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up.
Okay.
So, yeah. Are you ready to get a little personal?
Yeah,
right,
I'm
okay.
ready.
Which is, honestly, I don't think that you and I have ever gotten into it about.
I don't think we have either. I mean,
about OCD.
No, not OCD. No, we've
No.
gotten into other things, but you've never really delved into OCD. So I'm here
Yeah.
to listen, maybe ask questions.
Yeah, ask as many questions, even if they feel like they're too personal, or they might be offensive in some way. Just ask.
But about what you just said, where you don't want to lead somebody, I know I keep saying this, but this podcast for us is all about open and honest communication, talking about what is really going on in your head. It's not about judgment.
Right.
It's not about blame or Gabriel's going to talk about his OCD to normalize it. Like it's not a bad, it could have negative effects on your
Sure.
life, but it doesn't make you inherently bad, or it's not something like wrong with you. It's just another thing that affects people's brains.
Right. And it is also very important to know that everybody's diagnosis is going to be different, right?
Mhm.
My version of OCD will not be the same as yours.
Mhm.
I mean, we might share similarities, but for the most part, everybody's going to be is going to have their own individual issue.
Right.
Right.
Point of view.
Exactly. Their own struggle.
Yeah.
Yes. So, do you have a question for me? How do you want to start this? Let's start at the beginning.
Okay. Start. Tell me.
Okay. Well, I think like most people with OCD, and OCD, by the way, short for obsessive-compulsive disorder, and let's really break that down. Obsessive. What does that mean?
So the Psychological Diagnostic and Statistic Manual has 2 definitions for obsessions and 2 definitions for compulsions. For obsessions, it's recurrent and persistent thoughts, urges, or images that are experienced at some time during the disturbance as intrusive and unwanted, and that in most individuals cause marked anxiety or distress. Gabriel raised his hand. The second one is the individual attempts to ignore or suppress such thoughts, urges, or images, or to neutralize them with some other thought or action, i.e., by performing a compulsion.
Yes.
So then the compulsions are defined as repetitive behaviors, e.g. hand washing, ordering, checking, or mental acts, praying, counting, repeating, that the individual feels driven to perform in response to the obsession.
Yes. So that was all incredibly useful.
Mhm.
A little dry, so we're gonna give you some examples based on my life.
Yes.
Yes. So the obsession. For me, my we talked last week about how fear pretty much drives me.
Mm-hmm.
It just drives my daily
Me too.
function.
Yeah.
Right. So we can't really talk about my OCD without talking about my phobias. And really, I only have one major phobia, and that's called emetophobia, which is the fear of vomit.
Oh, that's not what I was thought it was.
Oh, so at the core of this, I've got like a fear of contamination,
Mm-hmm.
anything that's going to make me vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And my reasons for being afraid of vomit, we'll have to get into that later because that goes way back.
Yeah.
But in my head, I see vomiting as like the top tier of loss of body control.
Okay.
Right. And so for me, the idea of vomiting is just so horrifying and so. I mean, there was one Christmas where Kenneth accidentally he overate and he threw up, and I didn't even realize I was doing this, but I had curled into fetal position and was like rocking back and forth.
Oh my god!
Just like listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
And after it was done, which by the way, he came out of the bathroom and he was like, "Whoa, that was gross." Anyway.
Yeah.
And then he just carried on with his day. Which by the way, I was like, "How did you do that? How did you just puke up your guts and then just like carry on?"
Mm-hmm.
Even worse, like 30 minutes later, he was like, "I'm hungry." But for me, it is like a earth-shaking, everything stops, time stops. You just kind of it is so paralyzing for me.
Is it other people and yourself, or just other people?
No, other people can puke all they want. It's me. It's, if I feel nauseous,
Okay.
then I start to really, I'm on edge at that point. And so that's where my OCD comes in. Because once I want to do everything I can, which is not possible, by the way, but I want to do everything that I can to make sure that I never get nauseous. So I wash my hands repeatedly. I am very selective or choosy about what food I eat, which, I'm trying to stay rational in these moments, but there's no rationale.
Yeah, you can't.
Right. I'm completely irrational.
Mm-hmm.
If you were to ask me, what makes you think that food is not going to make you sick?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have an answer for
Right.
you. Right. I would try to, bullshit my way through it
Mm-hmm.
just to appease myself. But I think mostly I would just become angry that you're challenging me.
But I mean, that's the definition of a phobia, is an irrational fear.
Yes. Yeah. And so I developed these obsessions with keeping clean, making sure whatever I'm eating is clean, my toothbrush is clean, anything that's going to go in my mouth that could transfer bacteria or a virus or anything. I'm very, very cautious about, and I make sure it's really clean, and that it's free of contamination and germs. I'm shaking my head right now because you just know that there's no 100% way that I can do that in my home. But still, I'd try.
Yeah, but I know. As you started shaking your head, I was like, oh, don't shake your head. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just it's a way that your brain functions. You don't feel any shame or anything.
So daily, I have these very obnoxious, intrusive thoughts that will just hit me like a punch in the face, of either images of me throwing up, or I wouldn't call it like an auditory hallucination, but just like the sound of either me vomiting or vomit hitting the floor. Just these really disgusting, awful things that will just, I'm trying to play a video game. I'm trying to help somebody at work. I'm trying to drive, and then I'll just give a flash of me puking or something. And it also includes just a voice that will pop into my head saying like, are you sure what you ate earlier was really that clean? Are you sure that was the best thing for you to put in your body? Are you sure the person who prepared that had washed their hands? Are you really sure? And so it'll just nag at me and nag at me and nag at me. And I've learned to, for the most part, accept reality in that I can't do anything about how those people prepared my food.
Yeah.
Right? Or the thing that you're worried about happened 8 hours ago. So the train has left the station. Just prepare as best you can for what's about to come. But the compulsions, how those start to come in is, yes, I will wash my hands repeatedly. I will clean things repeatedly. I will be very specific about where we go eat or who I'm hanging around. I feel a little bad, especially during COVID times, where if somebody's that I don't know how they're feeling, if they're coming over, I'm like, so what's the situation here? Are you going to wear a mask, or have you had a test recently? What's going on? I can kind of come off as being a controlling asshole because it sounds like I'm trying to, micromanage your life, but really I'm trying my best to make sure that I don't get sick.
Yeah.
And that I find myself huddled over a toilet barfing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these things have been with me forever. Or at least for as long as I can recall. But I do think it's important to talk about it, to talk about what OCD is. I used to get kind of annoyed when people would put things in order and say, oh my God, I'm so OCD.
Yeah, no.
That's not quite what it is. If you find yourself awake at 4 a.m. because you didn't put something in order correctly, then maybe you have OCD.
Yeah.
If you find yourself on the bathroom floor at 2 o'clock in the morning, individually plucking out hairs from your body because of something you might have said like 4 years ago, you might have OCD. And by the way, I've done both of those things.
I know a lot of people think, oh, I have OCD, meaning like obsessive, like, oh, I'm clean obsessively. OCD does not exist without the compulsion.
Right. And so it does affect my daily functions.
Yeah.
Right. It does affect how I conduct myself at come lunchtime, come dinner time, or who I interact with throughout the day. As of right now, I only work in person maybe twice a week
Mm-hmm.
because I don't want to deal with people
Mm-hmm.
during COVID.
COVID. Yeah.
Right. And we're at that. I mean, it's all awful, but I feel like right now it's especially bad because people are still dying. People are still getting very, very sick,
Mm-hmm.
and zero people are wearing a mask,
Mm-hmm.
or at least in my neighborhood. So it's just even more present, right? Like it's just even more likely that it's going to happen, and I'll get sick, and I don't want to get sick. So I only work 2 days a week in person, and then just work from home the rest of the time.
So in your head, do your thoughts tell you that if you get COVID, you're going to vomit? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. In my head, so I do this terrible thing where people that I know that have had COVID, I will kind of grill them on their symptoms and their, their experiences with it. And I'll be like, what was it like on your digestive system? Did you have diarrhea? Did you have an upset stomach? Did it kill your appetite? Did you throw up? And then, I'll ask them other things too. But that specifically is what I'm most concerned about. And yes, I have hypochondria. So whatever they say will influence what I think about it. So if I were to get it, even if it was a quote unquote mild case, I would still just be, I'm going to do it. I'm going to throw up. It's going to happen.
You would make yourself nauseous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be bad, but I just can't help myself. I have to ask. I have to ask every person that I know that has or has had COVID what their digestive situation was. Yes. Gross.
It's just interesting. I'm kind of just sitting here taking it all in, listening to Gabriel, because we've been friends for 20 years and I did not know that you had this. I did not know. When you said whatever it was called, the fear of vomit, I thought you were going to say it was the fear of stuff going on with your teeth.
Oh.
I did not know that you had this.
So this is an interesting aspect. So it branches out, right? It kind of spreads itself out and works its way into other areas of your life. So for me, I have a hard time going to the dentist because I fear I might gag and throw up.
Oh.
So yeah, that's that.
Okay.
That explains it. But I also have claustrophobia, and that also contributes to it. But
you did ask me about COVID. You asked me. I remember now.
Oh.
You asked me what my symptoms were, and I didn't think it was weird. I just remember thinking oh, he's inquisitive.
Yeah. Well, it's a little bit of both, but mostly it's because I've got it. I've got a silly brain.
Yeah, but still, I mean, like you're saying, it's an irrational fear. That explains a lot throughout our friendship of different things that I didn't know that all had a common thread.
There was one time where you and I and your roommate were at your apartment and we were playing, I think, Uno. And I had half of a Subway sandwich sitting on your kitchen counter that I'll get to that later. And then we're playing and we take a break and then I go back to eat it. And you teased me saying, "Oh, that's been out too long. You're definitely going to get sick from that spoiled mayo." And I just stopped, and then you just started laughing, and then I threw the sandwich away.
Oh no, I didn't know that you had this.
I know. Well,
I'm sorry.
That's okay. But to be fair, at the time, I didn't know I had this either.
Yeah.
So there have been some moments where being polite is more important to me than my safety. If that makes any sense.
No, that's common with a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, but there was one time where I had to put my foot down. We were, again, at a Subway, and I was, I ordered my food, my sandwich, and the person making it, the sandwich artist, opened the bread bin and then turned to grab a loaf and then coughed right into the bread bin. And I didn't want to be impolite and say, no, get me another loaf. So I went through the motions of her making my sandwich, paying for it, and then I threw it away on my way out. And then I went home hungry and pissed. So there are times where I get so sick of myself, where I'm just like, eat the goddamn sandwich. You're going to be fine. Just shut the fuck up and keep moving. Which is how I got so fat. But occasionally, yeah, that'll happen. That'll happen where I'm just like, just fucking get over it. Get over yourself and just eat. Just eat the goddamn food.
Are you ever able to?
Yeah, but the entire time I'm having intrusive thoughts. I'm having like thoughts just like break into my normal thought pattern, saying things like, you're going to get sick. You're going to get really sick. You're going to just puke your brains out. You're going to end up in the hospital with dehydration because you can't hold anything down.
So what do therapists say about that? Like, that doesn't seem, is that a good thing?
What?
To force yourself to do something when you're having...
Well, therapists have in the past have asked me to challenge those thoughts, right? To confront those thoughts with, I think you said earlier, to, what is it, roll the tape? Play the tape?
Play the tape,
I like roll the tape better, so we're going to
roll the tape.
Where I play out, like, what's the worst that can happen? And all roads lead to me hunched over a toilet puking. Yeah. So again, you know, I'll reach limits with myself where I'm so over myself. I'm so over the issues that I just fucking do it anyway. Like, consequences be damned. I'm gonna do it anyway because I'm just so hungry, or I just spent so much money on this, or I just waited in line for 30 minutes. That I'm gonna fucking do it. And so I do it anyway, and then I just have nagging thoughts consistently for hours and hours and hours, right? Because when you have an intestinal virus, it usually takes about 24 to 18 hours before you start to really see symptoms. So for that long, I'm just like berating myself. I'm playing out scenarios. I am questioning everything. It's an awful thing.
I guess what's the goal of you challenging it if it doesn't?
Well, the goal of me the goal of me challenging it, and honestly, it comes down to practice, right? How consistently I'm practicing challenging myself and my thoughts. And the honest answer is that I don't do it enough.
It's hard.
It really is. It really, really is hard. But if I'm highly motivated, right? If I've just come out of a session where we're talking about challenging these voices, then I feel pretty good, right? I feel like I can meet these voices with concrete facts and rational thinking that it's not an issue, it's not a problem, and then I can carry on with my everyday life. And I'd say I was good for 4 days to a week and a half or something, but then something will happen where I have diarrhea, or I have really bad indigestion, or I get nauseous, or Kenneth isn't feeling well, and it'll spark something in me, and then I'm back at square one.
Yeah, that's a horrible position that your body puts you in, because you have stomach, like, I'm thinking as you're telling me this, like, our 20 years of friendships, all the times that you've texted me that you weren't feeling great and you were nauseous, and I never thought anything about it, but like, it seems to happen a good amount.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's so many things at play though, right? Because of the anxiety, which again I feel is a product of the fear, right? I feel it sounds like I'm pinning a lot of hopes to overcoming this fear, right? Like, if I was to just get rid of this fear, I wouldn't have my panic and anxiety disorder anymore. I wouldn't have my claustrophobia anymore. I wouldn't have my sleep problems anymore. But that's just not the case. But that being said, there is a lot of, is my stomach hurting because I'm overthinking everything and I'm making it hurt? Is my stomach hurting because of something I ate? Is my stomach hurting because of this or that or this or that? And it just kind of snowballs, right? Yeah. So it's tough. It's tough to tell, right? What's a legitimate stomach ache and what is psychologically or psychosomatic.
Well, regardless, they both feel the same.
They both feel the same, and they both have very real, consequences and fears attached to it. Yeah. I even took a sanitation class because at one point I wanted to open a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
And I took a sanitation class and a meat handling class and all that. By the way, I believe my certification for handling your meat has gone out, but I did at one point.
Uh-huh.
But learning about the food safety zone and all of that was
Mhm.
really useful. It was useful at the time, but my brain just ignores it. It just goes out the window.
Yeah.
So, if we get home from the grocery store and I know I just bought lunch meat or something,
Mhm.
it has to go immediately into the fridge for a couple of hours before I can eat it.
Yeah.
I won't just eat it right then and there or anything. Same thing with milk. I won't drink it.
Because your brain, thinks that bacteria started forming?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's reached an unsafe temperature in my backseat of the car on the way home. Yeah. And when I'm at the grocery store, and I think we've all seen this, people will put things in their cart and then decide later on throughout the trip, they'll just place
They don't
it somewhere
even
else.
try to put it back where they got it.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I've seen that too many times.
Frozen stuff, cold stuff. They'll put a solid chicken on the magazine rack.
Yes, and
Uh-huh.
it freaks me out
Yeah, it's rude.
because I'm now questioning, the cold or frozen stuff that I'm buying. How many times was this left out to thaw before it went back into the freezer? I don't know the grocery store's practices, so maybe they just toss it, consider it a loss, but I don't know that.
Yeah.
All I know is I have a frozen item in my cart. How long was it?
Mm-hmm.
How long was it ever at some point abandoned in the pet food section? So I have a practice of pulling things from the back.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I do it too, but just because they're like, that's the last thing they put in there. So
Right.
It's the best.
But that's one thing I do.
Okay.
I wash all my fruits and vegetables before eating.
With soap,
No, I use, it depends on what it is,
you
but
have
like
that stuff.
with strawberries, I use vinegar.
Okay.
I use, because it's natural and I want to really get into those seed crevices. Apples, really, I just use water, but also I don't eat apples. This is a thing I picked up from my teenage years when I had braces. I couldn't eat apples when I had braces,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I just started avoiding apples. And if I do ever eat them, I usually have to cut them up.
I cut them up.
Yeah.
I have my own stuff. When I was like 8 years old, I was riding a bicycle and face planted. I did not have a scratch anywhere on my face, but it busted my front. So I just must have been like, just hit my front teeth on the pavement. Anyway, and then years after that, some stuff would knock the fillings out. So I can't eat an apple. Well, I mean, I can, but I cut it up.
I once bit into a peach that had I bit into the peach, and when I pulled away, I realized that half of a worm was still in the peach, and the other half was clearly in my mouth.
Did you spit it out?
I did spit it out, yes. But I was just, what the difference is, though, I was a young child when that happened, and it never did anything to me.
Yeah.
It did not put me off peaches.
Mm-hmm.
It did not put me off bugs. It didn't gross me out. Nothing happened. It was the strangest thing.
Kids, I don't know.
Resilient.
Yeah. So, okay, this may be triggering. So if it is, you do not have to answer.
Okay.
Everybody's thrown up in their life.
Yes.
So what does that do to you if that actually happens?
I don't even know how to answer that, right? Because it's been such a long time that I honestly don't know. That's the weird thing, right?
Yeah.
Like you think like for me, I think I know how I would respond. I think I would freak out. I think I would do this. I think, I would scream and yell and tear my hair out. But honestly, I have no idea. I don't know, and I'm not gonna find out.
Yeah.
At least not today.
No.
Yeah. Ugh. But I will say that the idea like made my stomach flip.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
Felt like I don't know.
No, it's an important question to ask, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I throw up a lot. I don't know what it is. Like, I just get, my mom and I have always had what we call, I guess it's our little cute Southern name, sick spells, where we get sick for like 30 minutes and just feel super nauseous.
Yeah.
And most of the time I don't throw up, but sometimes I'll just make myself and then I feel better.
Well, when I was a teenager and all of my friends were starting to experiment with alcohol and drugs, and I would see them at parties, and they're just, not only are they, making total asses of themselves, but they're also like puking on themselves. I'm like, that does not look fun at all.
This explains so much about you. You
Yeah.
don't drink. I
So,
know you're always worried about side effects of medicine.
Yeah. But that's why I never started drinking.
Yeah.
And so to this day, I've never touched. Well, I've had like a shot once of apple. It was
Pucker?
Apple pucker on my 21st birthday.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's enough. My stomach feels warm.
Oh yeah, apple pucker is not the type of thing you want to take shots of. It's pure sugar and cheap alcohol.
How would I know, right?
You're right.
But that's it. And then Kenneth never drank either, so it just made it even easier to, get to 40, and having never been drunk.
Okay, so tell us this. Is there, and I kind of have an idea, but is there medication for OCD?
That's a really good question. I feel like this is where we really need to explain the differences between a licensed professional counselor and a psychotherapist,
A psychiatrist.
and a cognitive behavioral therapist, and so on. The medication that I'm on was prescribed by my general physician.
Okay.
Which I know for some people is a big no-no, right? Because
that's where I get my psych meds from.
And so they put me on my meds, and it helped with my anxiety and my depression, but hasn't really done anything for my OCD. So I know a lot of people will, and it makes sense that you'd be like, well, then why are you taking that when you could be taking something else or something in addition to? And I just haven't. And that's because I'm afraid of the side effects. I mean, it took me forever to agree to take the current meds I'm on.
Yeah. What about the therapy process? Like, do you ever work on this specifically in therapy?
We're getting there.
Yeah.
And this is an unfortunate reaction to, COVID and insurance, but I will find a therapist that I really like. Okay, so I did find one a couple of years back. I really, really liked him, but he was too expensive. He wasn't covered by my insurance, and so it was just out of my budget, and I just had to say goodbye.
That's too bad.
And then I found another therapist that I really enjoyed, and this is like in the middle of COVID. But then we had to switch insurance companies, and my insurance was no longer covered, and I could no longer afford him. So I just started seeing a new one, and he's covered by my insurance, and even if he wasn't, he's affordable, but now he's new.
Yeah, you have to start over every time.
Yeah. So it's only been a month, maybe?
Yeah.
So we're not there yet.
No.
Yeah. So...
Did you ever get there with any of them? Like to even talk about it?
Yeah. The one I had before, he had just been trained in, is it EMDR?
Yeah, EMDR.
I always say EDMR. I don't know why. But EMDR, he was trained in that. And so he was helping me, which is the practice of using rapid eye movements in relation to memories to help you rewire your brain. From what I understand, it's really beneficial, and people who do EMDR swear by it. But again, I did not get far enough in my journey.
Especially...
But it was useful.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, we don't know. I don't know. But I know it's been suggested that it's especially useful for PTSD.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know about like OCD.
Well, I mean, there are some aspects of PTSD that are involved with my particular brand of OCD, right? Things that I experienced as a child that have led to my fear of vomit, that have led to my OCD. It's all connected.
I know it's hard though, like because you have to relive it. Like you have to picture everything in your head as they're doing the light or whatever they're doing to get the intervals for your eye movement. You have to think about it.
You do, yeah. Honestly, I call it. I like to think of it as time travel. which just sounds really hokey, I know, but you are so entranced by these movements, and you're so focused on these memories. I mean, you can smell the air, right? Like I become so involved in the memory.
Yeah.
It's like I'm actually there, that I can, really engage with it. So it's really useful. I really liked it, but it is a long process.
Just because this, is just a testament to me not knowing what I'm talking about. I knew what EMDR was, but I couldn't remember what it stood for. It's eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yes. Yeah. I didn't know what it stood for, and I'm the
No.
one who actually did it.
Yeah. I remember in college I read that a therapist, do not quote anything I say, but a therapist or counselor or something was walking through like a garden. I feel like it was in New York. I don't know. Y'all can picture those gardens with those tall, thin trees,
Sure.
and there's spaces in between them. And she would walk through there, and the light comes in as you're walking through the spaces. And she realized she was like reliving trauma. And as she would think about the trauma and walk that path every day, she thought that it was lessening the effect of the trauma on her.
Interesting.
And so she thought that it was that intervals of light coming in and how they were affecting her eyes and the process. So that's kind of what it's based on, that they think that the eye movement or the intervals of light as you're processing through like rewires your brain somehow.
And it's a relatively new practice, so not a lot of people practice it, and not a lot of people even recognize it as an actual therapeutic tool. So if you're interested in EMDR, I would say definitely Google it, read up on it, maybe watch some YouTube videos on it, but just know that some people are going to be on board and all about it, and some people are going to scoff at it.
That's with everything.
Yeah.
Especially, in the realm of psychology and therapy, everybody has their opinions on everything.
Sure.
And different things work for different people.
Well, it's a science, right? And science, the only way that science can evolve is through constantly practicing and testing out theories.
Testing, trial and error. Yeah.
And then as you find out more, then the method changes.
And plus, if something works for you, it doesn't matter why it works.
That's true.
If something works for you, then do it. It doesn't matter if it's psychosomatic or if it's based, whatever. Just if it helps you, that's good.
Right. Yes.
So,
I will say one of the things that I thought would work for me that turned out to be the opposite, turned out to be pretty dangerous, honestly, was I'm a big fan of Reddit, as you know. And I decided, I've never actually looked at the OCD subreddit. And man, that was such a problem.
What?
Well, first of all, you have a lot of people trying to treat and diagnose that are not medical professionals, that are suggesting things that sound, really far-fetched or sometimes even downright dangerous. And no, so those people on the Reddit forum have broken OCD down to like 4 or 5 different categories.
Okay.
Which I can't find any basis in science. Like I've looked for articles, I've asked therapists, like, is there such a thing as this, or this? And they're like, not that I know of.
Yeah.
But is that just like internet Reddit language that they're using amongst themselves? I don't know. But, I'm not even going to talk about it because I don't want to give it any credence or validation or anything. So I will just say that be careful who you turn to for medical advice, especially if it's online. I highly recommend that if you're going to look up something, check with like the Mayo Clinic or the CDC or a hospital website of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah, be critical. If someone thinks that they have a plan of action for you and they are not a licensed healthcare professional,
you need to second guess
be leery.
that.
Yeah, that's why Gabriel and I always say we're not. Like, we are not telling you what to do. We are just talking about our lives, things that have worked for us, things that haven't worked for us, but we're not telling you
Yeah.
one thing to do. Like, we're just trying to open the conversation.
Yeah, I was really hesitant because the last thing I want to do is unknowingly implant the thought into someone's head that they have OCD just because they can't stop thinking about a fight they had, right?
Yeah.
Just because you have the occasional intrusive thought does not mean you have OCD.
No.
Just because you are worried that you might get sick, and so you wash your hands maybe 1 or 2 times that you have OCD. No, you need to be professionally diagnosed.
And it's, well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to talk in absolutes, but most of the time for a professional to diagnose you, it's going to cause function impairment, which I keep saying all the time.
Yeah.
But I just took, psychology. I do not know. It was undergrad, but I remember like any of the diagnoses, it has to cause functional impairment. It has to negatively affect your life as far as like more than just a thought or something. Like it has to impair your actions, your day-to-day. It's like how you get through the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I even hesitate in even talking about my coping mechanisms with OCD because I don't want it to sound like I'm making light of it or glorifying it or anything like that. So but here's what I'll say. I have found myself doing very questionable things at very odd hours and like missing work or missing time with friends and family, like just skipping scheduled appointments and things like that because I'm stuck. I'm stuck in a loop where I'm having to do something irrational. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Yeah. But also like I want Gabriel and I to be able to be open and honest with y'all that are listening, and
Right.
we're not trying to implant anything. We just want to be able to share.
Yeah, I just know that from my personal experiences being so susceptible, especially to, on this particular subject.
I mean, that's good. That's care.
Yeah, I'm trying to be cautious.
Yeah.
Being a hypochondriac and somebody with OCD, needling people for details about their experiences with COVID and letting it influence me, I'm completely aware that I could say something on this podcast that could influence you. And I don't want that.
And that's good. And that's why I just asked some questions today, because I told Gabriel I don't want to talk about something that I don't have experience with.
Yeah.
Or talk like I do have experience or that I know what to do. And so I think that's another reason. That's a good example of why. Because I'm like, oh, well, you should be able to say what you want. But you have the experience with it to know that it could trigger something. I don't have that experience. It's not personal to me. So I shouldn't say what you should say or be comfortable talking about.
I was curious if you were going to ask me if I was any closer to being cured or getting over it or anything like that.
I don't think that really exists, does it?
No, and I want to make that pretty clear. Especially for anybody who's tackling this or knows somebody that is experiencing anything like this. I don't think that there is ever an end in sight. It's all a matter of learning to manage.
Yeah.
So,
but you can cope. You can learn to cope better.
Yeah. So I don't think that I will ever be without intrusive thoughts or some sort of compulsive act. But I do think I can better manage or better recognize when I'm having a flare up, if you will, with OCD.
It's kind of like cognitive behavioral therapy and chronic pain. Like they just teach you how to cope with having chronic pain. It's not going to go away.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to sound negative, but Gabriel, you can feel better with coping.
Yes.
Better.
Yeah. I don't want to sound like, I don't want to dash anyone's hopes
Yeah.
that you're never going to get over this. But I'm telling you, you can learn how to manage your symptoms and you can learn how to address a lot of the problems that you may be having.
Yeah.
So you can still live a fulfilling, productive, functional life.
Yeah, you can function better.
Yes.
Yes. And I think that's just another stigma of mental illness, is that even those of us that have it, we're like, well, we have to fix it. It has to be 100% gone. And it's like, I don't really think the brain works like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. So there you have it. Now you know a little bit more about me.
And I know a little bit more about Gabriel.
It, in some ways, and I've said this before, I really do feel that you just have to make the most of a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to joke and say that's what I say that to myself every morning when I see my body. You got to make the most of a bad situation. But honestly, I have tried my hardest to make sure that any flare-ups I'm having or any kind of intrusive thoughts, that I'm making sure that I'm using it to my advantage. And for me, that just happens to translate to my artwork. If you've ever seen my art, you'll notice that I pay really close attention to details. And that's just because I want to really get in there and like put all of my angst and fear and anger and everything into the finer details of my pieces. And so it can get really intricate or specific.
But if you can get into that flow or that hyper focus, then everything else kind of melts away. So it's also it's a relief for people, I think.
Yeah, it really, really is. So I recommend anybody who's having intrusive thoughts to seek out medical professional help, and then start learning about your coping mechanisms, right? Making sure that they are productive, not destructive, right? So, put down the alcohol and the drugs, and really help yourself.
Yeah.
And by the way, in this situation, I don't consider marijuana a drug.
Okay. Sometimes we'll have to talk about that. I think not marijuana, but just drugs and alcohol in general. I bet you and I have different ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, since you've never been drunk.
I've never been high either. Once in high school.
It was bad, right? Like you didn't have fun, did you? Weren't you super anxious?
No, it was my 18th birthday and I took a pill off of a guy.
A pill?
It was ecstasy.
Oh, that kind of high. I thought you were talking about smoking weed.
Oh, no, that didn't really do anything for me. And I hate the smell. So,
you took ecstasy.
And then I drove home and I could have sworn it was like 4 a.m. and I was driving like 70 miles per hour. And it turns out it was only 9 p.m. and I went 20.
Parents were still awake.
They were still awake.
Oh,
they greeted me at the door and they were like, "How was the party?" Why do your eyes look like that?
That's right. You have told me the story. You told them exactly what happened, didn't you?
No, I lied, and I
managed
to maintain the lie.
That's good. Good for you.
I managed to stick with it. I said, "I think somebody spiked my drink."
Oh, well, at least that's like partial, like that admits, yes, I'm high, but I didn't do it.
And then I spent the rest of the night with my dad holding my head into the toilet. And he's like, puke it up. And I was just laughing the whole time.
So was your OCD triggered while you were high on
No.
secure?
No, I don't think it had manifested itself yet.
Oh, you didn't have it yet.
Yeah. Plus, when you're high,
Yeah.
you don't really have any cares.
No.
Yeah. And then what's worse, I'll just finish this story because I think you'll like this. I was so sensitive to medication or to drugs. Or maybe it was just a long-lasting pill. I don't know anything about drugs. I will tell you that the next day when I tried to go to work at the mall, I was still high.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is it so hot in here? And I started pulling at my clothes and I had to be escorted out by security. And my boss had to call my mom to come pick me up.
Because you pulled at your clothes?
Because I was very clearly high.
Oh. That's rude of those people. Like,
they were not going to trust me to count cash.
Oh. I'm sure you would have been fine.
Being a rolling 18-year-old. When's the last time you heard that phrase, rolling?
Back when we were 18.
1998.
1998. Well, I feel like Gabriel's put a lot out there. Like, if y'all have questions, if you continue the...
I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
If you want to share your story with us, like we don't have to share it on
Yeah,
on the podcast. Like, you can just talk to us if you want. You can email us at thenervousnellies@gmail.com.
We are always happy to listen.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Like, you can DM us. I feel young saying that. I did not understand what DM meant for like a decade, if it's even been that long. But anyway, yeah, we're at the Nervous Nellies on Instagram, and we now have a Patreon that you can find the link to on our Instagram. And Gabriel asks me every time, so I'll just preempt that and say that there are 2 levels. There's $1 pledge, and you get our gratitude, thank you. And then there's $5, and then you get early release of the episode and everything. Sorry, go ahead, Gabriel.
I didn't say anything.
You breathed in. I'm very aware of small things.
No, I was just breathing.
No, you weren't.
Okay. What were you saying?
Oh, I thought you were going to say something about the Trevor Project.
Oh, no, I was leaving it to you.
Oh, I won't cut this part. So, and half of everything that we make on Patreon goes to the Trevor Project, which is
a nonprofit organization that helps LGBT youth with any kind of mental distress that they may be experiencing, or any kind of suicidal ideations. Very useful.
Anything else?
No, I think that's it.
The powers come from the gods. The powers come from the gods.
Wash your fruit.